Welcome to your Networth's Network. I'm your host, Corey McNabb, and this is a networking style podcast where we bring up special guests, talk about their lives, talk about their business, and find ways that we can all work together. So, my life, mess up there. My goal in life is to rise to a place of excellence, and I want to bring you with me. Part of that excellence is that I work on my intro. So, that being said, let's get to our special guest. The man, the myth, and the legend, Mr. Lance Riggen.
Oh man, that was a great intro. I love it. I've never been introduced like that.
There you
I
go.
love it, man. Good. Thanks for having me on, brother.
No problem, man. So Lance, give the audience a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I can go for an hour just on this topic. I think it's really important to tell your story when you meet people. It builds an instant rapport. And so I'll skip some of the stuff, but I was born and raised in Southern California, moved up to Oregon, started a business, dropped out of high school, worked with my stepdad, started my own business, sold that business after 18 years, started flipping houses in the process. And we ended up selling that business, sold our last fix and flip. That was what we were doing on the side. And then we ended up moving to East Texas at the end of 2022. And we also joined the Sub 2 and Gator community at that same time, which I never recommend anyone do at the same time. But we did that. And we kind of went crazy last year. We made a huge mess, like Pace says, and we cleaned it up along the way. But we did a lot of deals in both communities. And I found myself in this lane of being a connector, a capital raiser, and then it kind of turned into just an organically kind of a leadership role in both communities. So it's been pretty awesome, man.
That is awesome. So you kind of got the connecting going. You got some capital raising, and obviously you're a leader in both groups. But what would you say you focus more on, the connecting, capital raising, or something totally different?
Yeah, it kind of goes hand in hand. So I started connecting early on, just helping people out, right? I'm a go-giver. I love helping people. So I was just, solving people's problems, right? That's kind of what we do. And I just was doing it naturally. And I wasn't getting any traction after about 3 or so months in the community. And I knew I wasn't getting traction. I wasn't getting paid, right? I was getting some traction, but it was kind of like, we get that shiny object. So I was getting pulled away this way and that way. So I actually read this book called The Miracle Equation by Hal Elrod. And that book asked me what my mission was. And once I figured my mission, it was basically adding value to other people. And honestly, that's what I focused on. And so it kind of goes hand in hand, capital raising, connecting. So I was doing it naturally. And I had a conversation with the co-host of my podcast, The Creative Collective. And Damon was like, I told him what I was doing. He's like, bro, you can make money doing that. But like, you're basically brokering deals, but not brokering deals. Like, you're connecting people. He says, you can monetize that, man. And so the very next opportunity I had, the light bulb went off. I was like, really? I had no idea. And so I did it. The first deal I did, I put myself in the JV agreement and we made 2% on it. And we were off to the races, man. And then, what happened was I would tell my story. How much I usually tell about a 10-minute version of my story. And I started finding that people were comfortable telling me that they had cash, and capital. And so I started looking for deals because I had all these people that had money. And literally the first Zoom I'd get on with people, they would be like, hey, I have like 200,000, I have $400,000, $500,000. And I was like, whoa, there's something special's going on here, right? Like there's something, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm doing something right. And so, and plus I had a lot of prior life experience, 20 years being an entrepreneur and, several years of being a creative investor. And so that have definitely helped. But I go into some good, bad, ugly, like my wife and I struggles that we went through and being a high school dropout and still being successful. And, I try and be very relatable to people with my story. And that's usually what tends to happen is I'm building rapport with people very quickly. Right. And then I jumped on the bandwagon of branding myself. And that's really where it started blowing up is all the branding I was doing. JJ, Azizian kind of teaches people how to brand and helps them set up their Facebook profile and your Zoom account and stuff. And that's kind of where it started. And I just ran with it and learned new things. And then I ended up teaching JJ some stuff, which was really cool. When I got to meet him last July down in LA. I went down there and went to a Dodgers game, and Zoe Guzman was awesome host. He picked me up from my hotel. We went to a Dodgers game. Not to get too off track, but that's kind of what started happening. I started building these awesome relationships with people, and that was my main focus, was adding value and building relationships. So it just kind of organically happened. Sorry about that.
Oh, good. I love to see families, doing business. That's great. So I do have a question. You're connecting. Do you think that being in the Sub 2 community has helped with connecting, or do you think that you have that skill or you're building that skill, and so whether you were in Sub 2 or not, you would be fantastic at it?
Yeah, I was pretty good at it, but it's just a different dynamic, man. It's a whole different culture, in Sub 2 and Gator. And it was what happened was I started noticing that I just knew, like, I try and tell people that how to share their value, to lead with value, especially when you're trying to talk to other leaders or people who are really busy and just killing it. And it's, when you approach somebody and say, hey, how can I add value to you? That's what everybody does that. And it's the wrong approach. Figuring out what your value is first and leading with that. And people say, well, how do I do that? I go, well, you need to figure out what have you overcome in your life, like obstacles, and what hardships have you overcome, what like for strengths as well, strengths and value, like what have you done in your prior work experience? Have you been management? Did you have a crew? Whatever it is, like there's things that you pull from your prior life experiences to put into this, even if you don't have real estate experience, so I started just helping people, try and guide them and show them that they had value, no matter what it was, like, and trying to, get them, because you need to really figure, I don't know what value you have, right? Like when people lead with that, how can I add value to you? That you're tasking me with a job, and I don't know you at all. So I have no clue what value you have, right? So you have to figure that out on your own. And I just started kind of teaching people that, and I would go into a little more in depth on it. And I love doing that, man. Like I just love pouring into people. It makes me feel really good, especially when I see them rising up and just killing it. They're like taking the advice. So that was the biggest shift when I joined the community, both communities, was like any advice or planting seeds would fall on deaf ears, right? Or I'd be throwing seeds out on the sidewalk, per se. And just never, they never took root, and to come into this community and people are like, wow. And they're like, damn. And they're intent and they're taking notes. Like, who am I? Like, and I was like, man, this is a breath of fresh air, man. Right away. It was like uplifting. It made me feel really good, so I just kept doing it because, like I said, when you come into this community with a W-2 mindset, right, when you're working a 9 to 5, it's crazy. I can't even imagine. Like, I've being an entrepreneur my whole life, I was super overwhelmed with all the trainings and the Zooms, and I was like, dude, what? And I just, so I know, being an entrepreneur for 20 years and having successful businesses, I know that these people are like, holy crap, like, what am I going to do? Heads are spinning, right? Analysis paralysis, paralyzed in fear. Literally, people are paralyzed in fear sometimes. And it's just nice to try and help them, tweak their mindset a little bit and help them. I try and get them on the right path and let them know that you just need to really focus on one thing. Like Pace says, it's so true, man. Get in one lane and stay in that lane until you get some traction, at least 3 to 6 months, in my opinion. Until you really dial that in, then you can shift and add more tools to your tool belt. But you see it so often where people are just all over the place, and they have no clue what's going on, what they're doing. They haven't learned really anything because they're just dabbling in everything, so.
Oh,
I've had to scale it back a little bit because I've been growing my business quite a bit, but I still love doing it.
I got you. You froze there for a couple seconds.
Oh, sorry. So I was just saying I love doing it. I had to scale back a little bit. I was spending too much time with newbies, and but any chance I get, I'm always open for a messenger or a text, voice text, or And if I can hop on a call, I will, and help someone out. I like to help people who are helping themselves, though. I'm not going to
Yeah.
I'm not going to waste my time with somebody who's just like not really focused, not really driven, not really just kind of floating around like a hobby type thing.
Hmm.
I tell people all the time, if you treat this like a business, you'll get paid like a business. If you treat it like a hobby, you're going to get paid like a hobby. It's just bottom line. Consistency and daily action. That's really what it is. There's no secret ingredient. You know what I mean? People come to me all, whoa, man, how do you do it? What do you? I'm like, dude, I dropped out of high school. I don't have like any formal education. I read every day. I listen to audiobooks every day. I listen to podcasts. I listen to the trainings and stuff, and I take action every single day. That's the only difference between me and you, right? That's,
Hmm.
I mean, it's not that I have anything special, man. It's just the consistency. That's really what it is. It starts building and building and building, you know, um, and that's really it. I put myself in the position though to not have another choice. I did that on purpose. I sold everything I owned and moved halfway across the country. I didn't know anybody here, you know. It was a crazy thing to do, man, and it was scary. We had some savings from our last flip and our primary and our business, and obviously, but I put myself in that position. I burned those ships on purpose. I did that intentionally. I knew I would have to perform and I would have to make this work. I had no other choice. And I don't do W-2. Like that's not, I don't work for people. Like, you know what I mean? It's not in my wheelhouse, dude. Like that's not even an option for me. I don't have a second option. Like, that's just like you do it, you make it happen. And in here, once you get that mindset right, there is no option for failure, really, in my mind. Like it's gonna work. I will make it work. It's failure is not an option. I mean, we have mistakes and we fail all the time, but ultimate failure, right? We get back up, man. We dust ourselves off. One of my favorite parables is the donkey in the well. Have you heard that parable? It's really cool.
I think I have, but for the audience members who haven't.
Yeah. Yeah, bro. So when I'm down on my luck or whatever, I'm having a rough day. There are a handful of things that I think about. First, I have an attitude of gratitude. I'm grateful for what I have and where I've gotten, first and foremost. But we all have bad days and struggle with, imposter syndrome and even anxiety sometimes. Like I have no other income, man. Like I've never really dealt with anxiety until recently. But like the things like the parable of the donkey in the well and the little comic of the two miners, and one of the miner quits. One miner quits right before he hits the diamond and gold jackpot. The other one keeps going like another foot, and they've been digging for a long time, and that's like ingrained in my head. Those types of things, and the donkey in the well is basically something very similar to that. It's there was a sick donkey on this that this farmer had, and it was just getting worse and worse. It didn't want to eat or drink, so he figured he threw this donkey down. Or no, the donkey got stuck in the well. I'm sorry. I screwed up on that. Let me back up. This donkey actually is walking on the farmer's property and falls in this well, this hidden well, and the farmer came to rescue the donkey. But he did everything he could. He couldn't get the donkey out of the well. And so he decided he was just going to bury the poor thing alive, and starts dumping shovels full of dirt in there. And every time the shovel of dirt would hit the donkey, he would shake it off and step up. And the farmer just keeps shoveling and shoveling. The donkey shaking it off, stepping up, shaking it off, stepping up, and he's just shoveling dirt in there. And this donkey just didn't want to be buried, right? He just kept shaking it off and stepping up until he was able to step up and walk out of the well. And so like that is something that has stuck with me for over 20 years. I heard that at a conference early on in my investing career. And yeah, that kind of stuff is like powerful, right? The donkey did not give up. The donkey refused to fail, right? He refused to accept the ultimate consequence of death, and he just didn't do it, and he kept shaking it off and stepping up. And that's how it is in life, man. We all go through struggles, and we all go through hardships, and you just have to shake it off and step up and keep going, man. Like keep moving forward, wipe yourself off and keep on moving. That's the only the only way you're gonna ever like ultimately fail in any business is if you just quit, right?
Mm-hmm.
So learning from your mistakes and moving forward, that's the ultimate key to success, in my opinion.
Gotcha. So I want to recap
Yep.
pretty much what you said, because I did have questions, and then right before I'd get to asking, it seems like you answered it. So I definitely understand the feeling of shiny object syndrome. Actually, it's gotten to a point where every time I bring up something to my wife, she's like, is that shiny object syndrome? I'm like, probably. Okay. So
Nice.
I definitely get that. And I was going to ask, like, how would somebody overcome that? But you brought up knowing your value or knowing your purpose that really gives you a direction of what you should be focusing on, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then it's just you've got to set up either systems or reminders to stick to it. So also seems like if you don't have one already, you probably need to go ahead and start a coaching business, because it seems like you're really helping a lot of people, and you should
Yes.
get paid for that as well.
I love that. I actually I'm writing my first book right now, and I'm going to start a coaching business with this coaching program that they have. They help people publish their first book. So it's pretty cool, man. I'm excited about
Fantastic.
it. Yeah.
Well, when are we looking for that book?
It's a great question, man. I'm so busy. I just have not committed to. I got it on my phone, reminders, and I'm like so trashed at the end of the week. I'm just like, I just need to relax,
Hmm.
But I am starting it. So I got the name. We're gonna get the cover. I've got the chapters figured out, and the title, and then like the subtitle figured out, and I do have about probably the first chapter. So I'm gonna say by the end of this year, I'm gonna have it done. Hopefully mid-year. Actually, I just need to kick myself in the ass and get it done. To be honest with you, um, but it's a powerful message, man. It's about my journey with my wife and I that we went through. It's called Fight for Her, and I almost lost, my biggest why of my life, my wife, because I was a freaking knucklehead, and I was missing the mark, man, big time. And I don't know if you want to go into that, but it's my favorite story to tell.
Oh, absolutely. This is your show, Lance.
I love it. Okay, so I'll start with the day. We pulled up, so we worked together. We've been partners for 20 plus years, 22 years. So we pull up to the house, and our granite shop was only about 5 minutes from our house the last, I don't know, 10 years. And so we're driving home, and my birthday was coming up, right? And I had taken a fishing trip on my birthday, salmon fishing trip, on the Oregon coast for the last 2 or 3 years for a few days. And so I get home, my travel trailer's gone, and I'm like, what the hell? So I'm starting to get pissed off immediately. I like had this trip planned. I already paid for, everything. I was meeting friends and stuff, and my trailer's gone. And I get out, I was like, where the hell's the trailer? My wife's like, just come inside. I need to read you a letter. And so we get inside, and she sits me and my two kids down, and she's like, reads me this letter saying that she's lost, and she doesn't feel like she has an identity anymore. She just needs some time to figure out who she is, and didn't mention me in it at all. And so, and she got up and was in tears and wanted to give me a hug, but I was so selfish and self-centered at the time. All I could think about was my trailer and how pissed off I was, and then I was in shock when she said she was leaving and with no notice. And I was like, what the hell what just happened? Completely in shock. She wanted a hug. I refused to give her a hug. I was so enraged, man. And then it started hitting me like, oh my God, she wanted a 3-month sabbatical is what she called it, to figure some stuff out. And I was like blindsided, dude. And so, like an idiot, I went on that fishing trip anyways. I'd been seeing this travel trailer on my trip out, because I did a lot of work with my granite shop out there at the coast, and it was about an hour away, hour and 10 minutes from where we lived and our shop. So it was a pretty easy trip, right? So I saw this nice travel trailer that I've been seeing for a while, and I decided to buy it. Like I just literally bought this guy's trailer, took it over subject to actually the existing loan, which was kind of funny story, but I picked it up, $275 a month. The guy had already paid like 10,000 down on it and everything. So I bring this thing and I just can't focus, man. I can't concentrate. I can't stop thinking about her and what the hell just happened, and I'm messaging her, messaging, and she's not responding. Then she finally messages that first night, says, I'm coming out there. And I was like, oh, cool. She's going to come out. We're going to, talk about this. And nope, that wasn't what happened. My buddy knew what was going on. He's like, bro, I don't think that's what's happening, brother. And I was like, what do you mean, dude? He's like, Lance, just be ready for something else, man. And I was like, okay. She came in, got there quickly. She came, opened the door, and she just gave me the stone cold, crazy, weird look I'd never seen on her before, man. And it was very hard to see her like that. Like there was no emotion in her at all. It was like a zombie. It was freaking creepy. And she's always been a warm, kind, loving woman, great mother, always making like lunches for us, like just super, super empathetic, sympathetic, you know what I mean? Like it was weird, man. And she wouldn't hug me. Like really, I hugged her, like she didn't hug me back. And she sat there and she just looked at me stone cold. And she's like, I'm not coming back. And I was just like, what do you mean? Like I felt like it was a nightmare, dude. 20 years we've been together. We'd raised 2 kids. Like we went through some shit, but I never ever saw this coming in a million years. And I was always that guy like, oh man, you poor bastard, because I was always working on myself and trying to be better. But I started slipping the last few years is what happened. I started reflecting and thinking about some things. And I realized that I was missing the mark. I was so focused on success and financial success in our future to get out of the rat race that I was missing out big time on my why. I was leaving my why behind. And so I came to the realization that after I bawled like a baby that night for hours, dude, I started journaling the next day, and I filled up 3 notepads full of journaling. And it was like therapeutic for me. I was drinking a lot though. I won't lie. Like I was drinking, dude. I was hurting bad. And, it was rough, bro. But I talked to a really close friend of mine, like while I was at the coast still. And, he was an older friend of mine. I had gone to church with this gentleman and was in men's ministry and a lot of things in my younger years for a lot of years. And this guy was one of my, like the best guys to look up to, always super humble, always want to help everybody. Like one of those true servant leaders. Right. And I asked him, and I knew he had lost his wife for about a year. And so I asked him, I called him. I was like, bro, I'm in a bad spot, man. What can you help me? Like what? I don't know what to do, man. And he goes, Lance, I know you're going to get to work, and I know you're going to do whatever it takes to get her back. Here's two pieces of advice I have to give you, and they're not going to be easy to hear. He said, 1, you have to give her space, man. You got to let her go. You have to give her that space that she needs. And that was freaking brutal. And then the second thing he said, look, you can't put a timeline. She said 3 months, could be 6 months, could be a year, bro. You don't know. She might not come back. You have to do this. I know you're going to go on this journey. You have to do it for yourself first, not for her. And that was the best advice I could have possibly gotten, man, because honestly, I got to work immediately and started reflecting and realizing where I'd missed the mark in several areas. And it was cool because I'm a firm believer in God. And I feel like God was showing me these things that I was missing on, like within like, boom. Once I realized, I started seeing all these things in my head. And I got to back up a minute because she didn't hurt. Like she was not verbally abusive. Like she didn't freak out, yell at me, call me a piece of shit. Like it was like, dude, it was eerie and weird the way it happened. Like I legit thought she was losing her mind at first until I started realizing why didn't she just flip out on me? It was really hard to understand. I found out later that she knew I was going to be hurting so bad and so crushed that she didn't want to add to that pain. So that's like, just like shows you what kind of person she is, like most people they wouldn't give a shit. Like if they're done with you, they're done. They're going to just destroy you. And so I went to work. I started listening to this audiobook called How to Listen with Intention. And it started changing the way I was communicating with everybody around me. I listened to it over and over. And I listened to that book 5 or 6 times, bro, in the course of 2 months. Every single morning I'd play with my dog. and I would listen to that book no matter what I was doing. I had my headphones on or earbuds. I was listening to that book and I was putting it into practice. I had to work with her. Okay, bro. Like that's the part I always forget to tell people. I had to work. We owned a business together. She didn't just leave. She left, but stayed working, right? She needed to get paid. So I had to see this woman every day, bro, and go home to an empty bed, man. Talk about, damn, that was hard, dude. There was a lot of like really, really tough nights, man. But I started talking to her a little bit at the shop, and then weeks and weeks go by, and she just really wasn't giving in much. And I just kept trying to talk to her, and she's finally, after work one day, we talked for like a half hour. Then it was like 45 minutes, then an hour. Next thing I know, we're having these long, like beautiful conversations, and I'm really getting to know her on a much deeper level. And she starts seeing a change in me. Excuse me, it's still tough to talk about, but she starts seeing a change in me. And I started inviting her over for dinner, at the house, and she refused a few times, but then she accepted, right? I wasn't bugging her every week, but like every other week I'd be like, hey, that offer's still open. I'll make you some good food. We can just hang out and talk. And we just started getting into some really deep conversations about life and about things that she enjoyed doing, and things that, communicating just on a different level, man. Like I learned how to communicate with her and draw things out of her. I would ask her questions and be really intentional on listening and paying attention, right? Like what I found out in that audiobook, How to Listen with Attention, was that me and most other men, especially the ones I know and hang out with, are conversational narcissists, right? And what that means is when our wife, or anybody for that matter, but mainly our wife, right, our significant other, when they try and talk to you about an issue or a problem they're having or a struggle, we immediately try and get the answer in our head, how we're going to fix that problem, how we're going to solve their problem. We got it figured out, right? Well, guess what? That's not what they want, man. They don't want that. Like sometimes if they ask you for, hey, can you help me figure this out? But 99% of the time, your wife, your woman, your significant other, they just want you to hold space for them. And that's a term I didn't know before this all went down. So what that means is I'm just listening and being there for her. Imagine that. I'd never done that before. I didn't know how to do it. And so I just started listening, bro. And like things started to change, and I never once told her what I was doing. I just did it, bro. Like she didn't know what was going on behind the scenes. In between my binge drinking, several days a week and weekends, I was like getting to work, brother. Like the alcohol was drowning the pain, and I know it wasn't healthy, but man, I had to do it. I had to dull that pain somehow. And so dude, we start talking, things start progressing. And then I read I read this book called The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. And that book changed my life. Like that was part of my problem. I was so focused on the future. I wasn't really living in the moment. Right. And I was letting my subconscious brain control my life, man. And I started learning how to control my own thoughts, my own mind. And that like changed the game for me, bro. Like learning to enjoy the moment, even when stuff is scary and shitty and hard. I still know that I'm grateful for a roof over my head, my family, we have vehicles that run, right? We have enough, And so anyways, we start talking, and this one day, we've had several conversations, some really rough ones. I asked her a couple times, which was stupid, if she ever saw herself coming back home, which is dumb. Because at one point she's like, look, I'm going to be as honest as I can with you. I just want to let you know, be careful what you ask me, And I was like, oh God, just that alone was like scared the shit out of me. And so I asked her if she, thought she would be ready to come home. And after about 3 months, she goes, no, I always know we were going to be together, and I still know we will, maybe 2 or 3 years down the road. And I'm just like, just stabbed to the heart, bro. Brutal, dude. And I'm just like, oh my God, that was a stupid idiot. Why'd you ask that? So, but anyways, man, so we started talking a lot, bro. Got on a just deep level, man. We just started building this foundation. And I ended up telling her at one point, I was like, look, no matter what happens, I want you to know that you're always going to be part of this family. Excuse me. Sheesh. And she broke down and bawled, when I told her that. She's like, oh my God, thank you so much. I was so afraid that you were going to push me away and be such an asshole. And she's like, and she was really confused, with everything I was doing. She did not expect it, man. She thought I was going to just give up and tell her to go take a hike, right? Tell her where she could shove it. And none of that happened, man. And she was like, what the hell's going on? Right. She started going, So, but what I didn't know too, after we started talking, really after I found out later, let's just say that she had no intentions on coming back. She was completely done, dude. Like done. And yeah. And like, it was crazy, man. Like literally, dude, 6 months went by and I was like dating and we were seeing other people. I didn't want to, but and I don't tell this part of the story very often, but it's my journey, bro. And I'm not ashamed of it one freaking bit. Like she was so done with me years before, apparently, that she had started seeing some dude. And I thought she was working on herself. So when I found that out, I was freaking pissed. But I handled it like a real man would. And I said, you know what? Once I realized she was completely done with me, I didn't care, dude. Honestly, I didn't freaking care, man. She kept pushing me, go date, go play, like, go hang out, go be a player, right? And that's something I always wanted to do as a young. I've always been a one-woman type of guy, but she was like literally separated, took her ring off. And I was like, finally, one day, I was getting drunk, so that's not a good recipe, right? So I started seeing a few women and whatever, right? I had fun. But bro, like when she told me that, I was like, oh my God, I was so pissed. But I wasn't an asshole about it. I was calm. And here's the thing. Here's why she told me, man. Because I told her one day we were having a conversation and I said, I just want you to know, because I had a feeling something was going on. I said, I just want you to know, I don't care if you've been sleeping with somebody else or seeing other men. It doesn't matter to me. I love you. And I'm going to be okay with that. Because prior me, Lance 1.0, I call this version Lance 2.0. Lance 1.0 would have flipped the freaking wig, dude. And it would have been done. So when she heard me say that, that was basically when she decided to basically come back to me, because she knew that I was going to find out and she had to tell me. So, dude, freaking crazy story, right? And it bugged me for a little bit, but we worked through it. She decided to come back like after 6 months, man. She put her ring back on. It took me a while to get her to fall back in love with me, right? But she put her ring back on, bro. And like, I was ecstatic. We took a trip to the Grand Canyon, fly on a set. I chartered a little plane around the Cessna around the Grand Canyon and proposed to her. My buddy and I actually planned this trip. I had no idea this, she was going to come back to me. I really thought I knew in here it would happen. But here I was like, I don't know, maybe sometime. So we had this trip to Vegas and to the Grand Canyon set up. I rented this Mustang 5.0 GT, drop top, and we just drove from Vegas to the Grand Canyon with that Mustang. It was a badass trip. And she met us there and stayed with me for a night or two. And so I was like, bro, can you record this? So I have a recording of it, like, and I got this shitty little Cracker Jack, like, ABC store ring in Vegas, like from the ABC stores, like a kid's toy. And I proposed to her and she just bawled and accepted. And yeah, so bro, like that's really what happened. Like that whole story changed my life forever. Like I'm a different person now, right? I still have my core beliefs, but there's a lot of things I was holding on to and I was just angry all the time with the current climate of like COVID and the shutdowns. And I'm a business owner, right? I'm fighting for businesses to open back up. Like I'm like too involved in that shit. Like you know what I mean? I was getting so sucked into that and all the politics and all the bullshit that I started letting go of all that. I was like, when she left, I was like, man, my head wasn't right. I didn't want to end up killing somebody. Like I was not in a good place, And so I had to step away from all that. Honestly, because I was fearful that I would hurt somebody and end up in prison. You know what I mean? Like I was in a good mental health state for a while. And so I just started letting go, but then I was drawn to nature. I wanted to get outside more. I wanted to get out of the city. Like all these things just kind of started changing, right? Like, and I was like, screw it. Let's just freaking move. Let's get the hell out of here. And We did. We're just like, screw it. We live on farm country. Like, bro, there's hundreds of acres of farm. I can see maybe 5 houses from my house. Like, there's hundreds of acres of fields around me. We live on a few acres. Like, it's dope, man. It's serenity, right? We needed it for a time. So I get literally unplug. I go and hang out on the little swing we got for my grandson, this little like net swing, or just sit out on the back porch, and it's just like peaceful, and it's awesome, man. But
yeah.
But man, yeah,
that's a wild story.
Yeah,
that's awesome though. I really like, my biggest takeaway from that is that, yes, you know, I don't know all the details, right? I wasn't there, but you had your things going on, and it took you away from your why, right? Your purpose. Now, maybe that's not entirely your total purpose, but it's definitely a big part of it, obviously. So, kind of got you veering off, looking in other directions, not within the relationship. That's not what I'm talking about, but just in life. And then you see how things start to fall apart, right? And the biggest way I can relate to that would be, I'm sure you've heard of 75 Hard with Andy Frisella. This is my second year doing it, and one of the easiest things to miss is that progress picture, right? And it's a very small thing. It's a very small detail.
Yeah.
But if you don't keep up with the small details, you'll end up way off track. So I think that's one of the biggest things I take from your story is that, it is easy to get off track. But like, I think it was necessary. It sucks that you had to go through it.
Yes.
But look at all the growth that you've had to, grow in order to get back on track, right?
Dude, 100%.
So
had to happen.
I think it's amazing.
Thank you. It had to happen. I've thanked her, dude, countless times. I said, look, at the end of the day, I wouldn't have been able to do this if you were here still. So I understand why you had to leave. And there was some things that led up to it. Like, me and my daughter got into a huge fight. My daughter was a very difficult kid, and we had a strained relationship for a number of years, man. She was very difficult, like broke out of her room, like in her early mid-teens, like she was partying and doing all these stupid things, right, that no parent ever wants their kid to do. And it was tough because I was the hammer, right? I ruled with the iron fist, tough love, and that's all I knew. It didn't work with her at all. It worked with my son, but she was the rebel. She was the fighter, man. She is literally a fighter too. She's scrappy. Like, she will throw down with anybody. Like, she's crazy, but she's super loyal, like, loyal to the core. Like, she will have your back no matter what. And her and I are a lot alike in that, that was the problem. She's a lot like me. And so she wouldn't back down. And I was like, look, you will fucking like submit. Pardon my language. It was like, you will respect my authority. That's really what it boils down to. As dads, we're like, respect. We desire respect, and some of us demand respect, and it doesn't always work out too well for us. At the end of the day, it wasn't working. She basically attempted suicide a couple times, and it screwed me up, dude. I remember driving to the hospital to pick her up, and she was like 16, and I was tripping, dude. Tripping. I was praying, reaching out to God. I said, Lord, help soften my heart, help me. I don't know what to do. And in that moment, man, I felt something in me change, and things were different after that. I didn't know what to do, but I wasn't the same. I wasn't so hard on her, right? I was like, my daughter is way more important than any one stupid thing that she's not doing right or whatever it was, so I literally felt the softening happen in that moment. And things were different, but I still was totally on the wrong path. Like, I just didn't know, bro. Like, I wasn't raised. I was raised in a broken home. My upbringing was rough, dude. Fighting and screaming and coffee cups being thrown across the room before school, like type of shit like that. And it was tough, man. My dad wasn't around. My dad was an alcoholic and a drug addict. And my stepdad was a real piece of work himself. And so that's what we bring those wounds and that damage with us. And if we don't figure out how to heal those wounds, we're going to inflict them on our children, unfortunately. And that's what, I mean, I did go through a lot of stuff. I went through some stuff with my church that I was a member of for a long time, called Wild at Heart. I went through it over and over and over again. Like, I thought I had it, but I didn't. I missed it. I wasn't quite there, and there was, what the biggest problem was I wasn't taking ownership to my shit with my kid. And that was where the light went off. I actually hired a coach, Thomas Fanner. He's got a company called Dads Who Lead. About a year and a half ago, I hired him because I was just like, it went on for years and years. We just didn't see eye to eye. And I was just sick of it. And I went through all these changes in the last couple of years. I wanted to be able to have that relationship with my daughter. She's 23 now, man. Like, and it was brutal, dude. I just couldn't figure it out. So I hired this guy, and brother, like, our relationship is so good now, man. Like, it's just amazing what happened. And my son, he's 16, and he was 14, 15. He was starting to butt heads with me too. And it was just the same thing. I just couldn't figure it out. I wasn't equipped. I didn't have the right tools, And so I learned with the coach, and I was super thankful and grateful to that guy, because I have a great relationship with my kids now. And I love hanging out with them. I just talked to my daughter the other night for an hour, man, on the phone. She called me, bro. Like, that is freaking huge, dude. Like, we would fight, dude, like argue. And I kind of, to circle back, that's what basically one of the straws that broke the camel's back with my wife. My daughter and I got into a blowout when she was 20 at the time. And she was living at my house, she was pregnant. I let her come back home, and she had her baby and she was at the house, and she just was so disrespectful and rude to me. I could not let it go, man. And I just freaking, like, I never put my hands on her, but I was in her face, get the F out of my house. Like, I'm not going to put up with this shit. And my wife was always take her side, bro. Like, there was a big divide. And that was a big reason why she ended up leaving me, is because the way she saw me treat the kids. What she didn't see was all the 2-3 times I was really cool to them and asked them really nicely. All she saw was the bad guy and losing my shit on them, unfortunately. But it all added up. And then, so Thomas and I went through the stuff, and I really learned. It took me like 3 months meeting once a week. It was, ownership was like 20%, and then 40%, and then 50, and then 60, 70, 80. I finally was like, dude, okay, all right, I get it. I'm going to take 100% ownership of my shit, the damage I caused, right? And I realized that her truth isn't my truth, and it's okay. That's the hard part, right? Her truth doesn't align with my truth, and that's why I would get so mad. She would be saying these things that I didn't agree with, and the things that we did, and how rough childhood was. And I'm like, dude, you have no idea. You know what I mean? Like, my childhood was rough. You had it good. You never went without anything. Like, I grew up poor as shit. Like, but anyways, just taking that extreme ownership, it's the same in business or with your relationships. Like, once you learn to do that, things start changing, man, and it's okay. And that was one of the big things. It's okay if someone has a different opinion than me. I don't have to agree with it, but I can respect it, So, but yeah, it was crazy, man. Super grateful to be in a really good place with my kids, my awesome wife, who's messing up our show here. No,
you're good.
I'm just kidding.
I know. Now it seems like I've got to have a whole episode just to hear her side.
Right? Yeah. I would love that.
Oh man, no, that's fantastic. That like Lance, this is really kind of the first time we've really got to talk. I know I've seen you active in the community. You've been great, but like, just being able to sit down and talk to you and hear your story is amazing.
Thank you.
That being said, I do have a few questions that I'd like to move towards.
Yes, sir.
All right. So first off, again, this is really the first time we talked, but like, what made you want to be on the podcast today?
Good question. I love to support, my fellow entrepreneurs. I saw you on Instagram. I think it was Instagram or Facebook. You were sharing another podcast, like a short, and I was like, oh, dude. And then that's what it was. You said, hey, I've episode 6 and I want to get more. Who wants to? And I was like, bro, I'm in, dude. And I jumped on the bandwagon. I was like, let's go, bro. Like, I love, and that's where I'm at in my career, my life. I love really helping people who are doing for themselves already, or supporting people like yourself, who you're taking action, you're doing the things, consistent things, right? And those are the people I love to support, right? Because I'm not wasting my time. Just this being frank with you, like, man, it's such a waste of time with people who I call them assholes. They just come to you and ask you all these questions, and they never take your advice, and they keep getting themselves in the same rut and bitch and complain. It's like, dude, bro, it's exhausting. So that's why.
Yep. Hey, that was me. That was me for a few years. So I totally get it. It actually wasn't until I joined Sub 2 that I really started taking action.
Nice.
So that being said, I know you're a connector,
Yes.
and so I definitely see a future with us working together. But then why aren't we working together already?
Oh, good question. Great question. We'll have to figure that out on a Zoom.
That's right. Okay.
Within this next week. Yeah, let's do it, man. Let's
Yep.
hop on a Zoom and talk about business. And then I get to know a little bit about you first, though. I always lead with my story, encourage the other person I'm talking to give me a story of theirs. And I like to hear the nitty gritty, good, bad. And people don't understand that that's important, right?
Oh, yeah.
I want to know where you're from, what you've done, like failures that you've had, like, and overcome. Like, that's what I like. Like, that's how you really get to know people. It's not all the fluffy bullshit,
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's what people always lead with, and that's all they want to talk about. It's like, hey, everybody has stories like that. I want to hear the stuff that was hard for you,
Yeah.
That's how you get to know people, man.
All right. Yeah, we'll definitely do that. But this episode is about you. Okay, I did my episode already. So
Yes, sir.
All right. So Lance, what are your strengths? You're obviously an entrepreneur, but what are your strengths not only in business but in your personal life?
Yeah, bro. I'm in our business life, I'm a visionary, connector, capital raiser. I'm a leader in the community, both communities at this point. And I don't like saying that I'm a leader, but I feel like I have to now. Like, I don't know, like, Pace has recognized me quite a bit. And when other people start referencing you as a leader, then I'm like, okay, I'll take that role on. But I don't like to put that out there, to be honest with you. But, it is what it is, right? I am a leader and I accept it. I'm just not going to be a cocky, arrogant prick about it. But I'm also working on buying co-living. We bought $2.5 million in real estate last year using other people's money, a mobile home park, a midterm rental, short-term rental, and we're closing, and a flip actually. And now we're closing on our first co-living deal finally in about a week or so. So
Right.
Lots going on, man, in my world. Did like 60 deals in the Gator community. Lots of deals. They didn't all go great. They didn't all go smooth. I learned a lot, but it was a wild ride, dude. So that's my main thing, connecting and raising capital for really solid investors, and then purchasing co-living. That's what my focus is.
Awesome. So what are your weaknesses within business?
Oh man, do you have another hour? Because I don't know if we have enough time for that. So I don't worry about my weaknesses. I focus on my strengths, and that's why I'm able to be successful. I'm not great at systems and processes. I'm not great. I'm pretty organized, and I live and die by my calendar, like we talked about. I didn't see us on the calendar, and when you hit me up, I was like, "What?" I'm driving. I was like, "Oh, dude, shit!" And so I'm pretty, but not right. Like I'm just not a good systems and processes guy. I am good at delegating. I am good at coming up with a plan, but making that plan, turning that plan into reality, not good at it at all. So very high ranking on the visionary, like 90%, something crazy high. So, but I did manage my granite business. That was why I didn't make 3 or 4 million a year. We only made about 1.5, and that sounds great, but it's not when you have crews and a large shop and but anyways, yeah. So I learned a lot. I keep learning. That's the key really for me, is to just keep learning, keep growing every single day, man. That's what we do. That's what we strive for.
Awesome. So that weakness question really kind of leads into this last question is what would you need help with that would help make you money in the next 30 days?
Oh, I love that. Bring in deals, really solid gap funding deals. That's what my jam is, man. I've got lenders, for really good 6 months or less, 20% or more. returns. Honestly, that's the bread and butter. 20+% is even better, right? Like, and leads on co-living opportunities. Like, I'm really focused on Dallas Fort Worth the most, and then Houston as a secondary market. So looking for those 2,500 square foot or larger, no HOA, unless if it is an HOA, it's got to be no rental restrictions, right? Preferably no HOA, ample parking. We want the older homes, like not older, but mid 80s to like early 2000s. We don't want the newer homes because they're too open. The floor plans are open. We don't want those, which is kind of cool, right? It opens up more possibilities for us, but that's basically what we're focusing on. Not basically, it is like co-living is what we're focused on. We're also stabilizing our mobile home park, and that's been fun. Not it hasn't been fun at all. It's been a nightmare, but we're getting there. We're getting there. We're learning. Like I said, every day, bro, there's learning lessons learned every single day. So, yeah, man.
Well, if you're watching this, you heard it. Lance, he's looking for co-living, and you said DFW, right?
Yes.
So if you got that, reach out to him. Kind of leads to the next thing. Lance, where can people get in touch with you if they got deals for you?
Absolutely, man. You can hit me up on Messenger, Lance Riggen, Riggen. There's no S and no I at the end. Okay, that's a common misspelling of my name. Also, you can find me, on Instagram at Lance Riggen. I'm fortunate to have my own name. I am on TikTok, but I don't do business stuff really on TikTok. So, really focusing on Facebook because our communities are there. I just hit 6,400 followers too, bro. And man, just a little over a year, dude.
Nice.
I want to double that, triple that though, so. But yeah, thanks for having me on, bro. I appreciate you, man.
No, I appreciate it. I love the story, and we'll definitely get together a little bit later and see how we can do some business together.
Sounds good, bro.
All right, Lance. Well, thank you again, and I'm going to go ahead and send you back and close this thing up, all right?
Sounds good. See you guys.
All right, guys, that's our show. That was Lance. Fantastic story. And if you are one of those that just starts the podcast and then skips to the end to say you watched it, go back and listen. It was seriously super good. I'm just kidding. I don't know anybody who actually does that. But seriously, it's a great story. And reach out to Lance. He's a great guy. He wants to help you as long as you're helping yourself. All right? We want action takers. We don't want consumers. So that being said, go ahead, like and subscribe, and come back next week. All right? Put any comments, anything you want to see more of, anything you don't want to see more of, any dances, questions, concerns. Doesn't mean I'll listen to it, but I'll look at it. So until next time, have a wonderful day.